The boy's hands trembled as he held a bruised apple to his chest. "Put it back," the store manager snapped. I was gonna pay," the teen stammered. But the words didn't matter. In that small-town grocery store, his face, his clothes, his silence were already guilty. Seconds later, security dragged him out into the cold night, while cameras rolled. Rain slicked the cracked sidewalks of Hollow Creek, a struggling Midwestern town where boarded-up shops whispered of better days. The only place still alive after sundown was Greer's Market, a grocery chain owned by a family that prided itself on keeping standards high. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting harsh shadows between aisles of polished fruit and neatly stacked boxes. The air smelled of bleach and overripe bananas. Outside, a flickering neon sign glowed red against the rain. Fresh food. Fresh faces. Dante Miller was 17. Skinny, with shoulders too narrow for his hoodie, his sneakers worn at the toes. His dark curls clung damp to his forehead. His eyes, though tired, carried a softness, like someone who still believed in kindness despite a world that rarely showed him any. He wasn't a troublemaker. He wasn't a thief. He was just hungry. Dante's mother worked double shifts at the nursing home. His father was gone. Dinner at home was often a question mark. Tonight, Dante had walked 2 miles through the rain with crumpled bills in his pocket, enough for bread, maybe fruit, something to share with his little sister. The apple was the mistake. He picked it up to check for bruises. "Hey," a voice barked. Mr. Greer himself, the store's owner, strode across the polished floor. Tall, heavy-set, white hair slicked back, his suit too fine for a grocery man. His lips curled when he saw Dante. "What do you think you're doing?" Dante startled. "Just checking it. I have money." He pulled the bills from his pocket, damp but real. Greer sneered. "Money? For this?" He plucked the apple from Dante's hand, holding it between 2 fingers like something dirty. "You people think you can walk in here, touch what you want, and walk out." Heat rose in Dante's face. "I wasn't stealing. I was gonna pay." A few shoppers paused. A mother clutched her child closer. A cashier froze, eyes wide but silent. Greer's voice grew louder. "You don't belong here. Not with those clothes, not with those pockets." Out, 2 security guards appeared. Big men, arms crossed, radios crackling. "Escort him," Greer ordered. Dante's voice cracked. "Please, I just want bread. My sister." Out. The guards grabbed his arms. Dante stumbled, the damp bills falling to the floor. Shoppers whispered. Some smirked. Others looked away. And then, one woman raised her phone. A small red light blinked as she hit record. The glass doors swung wide, and Dante was shoved into the rain. His hoodie soaked instantly. His sneakers splashed in muddy puddles. Behind him, Greer's voice rang out one last time. "People like you don't shop here. You steal, you lie, and you never change." The doors slammed shut. For a moment, Dante stood frozen. Rain ran down his face, mixing with hot tears. He wanted to scream, to fight, to prove them wrong. But all he could do was clutch his empty stomach and walk into the night. He didn't know it yet, but the video was already uploading. By morning, the clip had 50,000 views. By noon, it had 1 million. Teen humiliated for buying apple. This is what poverty looks like in America. Racial profiling in small-town grocery. Twitter raged. TikTok stitched. Facebook filled with comments. "This broke my heart. That boy is me. When will this stop?" By evening, national news stations picked it up. Reporters descended on Hollow Creek. Protesters gathered outside Greer's Market, chanting Dante's name. Inside his office, Mr. Greer seethed. Cameras outside painted him the villain. Reporters demanded statements. His phone buzzed nonstop. "How dare they?" he fumed to his lawyer. "That boy is nothing. A nobody. I built this town's only decent store, and now he's the victim?" The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, the video looks bad. Very bad." Greer slammed his fist on the desk. "I don't care. People like him are always looking for a handout. I won't apologize." Meanwhile, Dante sat in his small living room, blinds drawn. The house was old, the wallpaper peeling, the heater rattling. His sister clung to his arm. "Why's everyone talking about you, Dante?" she asked, eyes wide. He stroked her hair softly. "Because sometimes the truth gets loud, even when you don't." Reporters knocked on the door. Neighbors offered food, clothes, money. Dante refused interviews at first, his voice soft, polite. "I didn't want to go viral," he told Claire. a young journalist persistent enough to earn his trust. I just wanted to buy bread. The next day, Greer doubled down. He held a press conference on the store steps, cameras flashing. That boy was a thief, he declared. I have the right to protect my business. This isn't about race or poverty. It's about law and order. But Claire was ready. She stepped forward, microphone in hand. Sir, the video shows the teen holding money. Isn't it true he was offering to pay? Greer's jaw tightened. Not enough. Not clean. You can't expect people like that to. He stopped, realizing too late. The cameras caught every word. Within hours, hashtags exploded. Hashtag boycott Greer's. Hashtag justice for Dante. That night, a second video surfaced. From another shopper. Longer. Uncut. It showed Greer snatching the apple from Dante's hand, sneering, "You people never change." It showed Dante dropping his money, begging quietly, "Please, my sister's hungry." And it showed Greer laughing. The nation watched in silence. Then the silence turned to fury. By morning, the FBI announced an inquiry. Civil rights lawyers called. Activists flooded Hollow Creek. Dante, the quiet teen who just wanted bread, had become the face of something much bigger. A week later, the town gathered outside Greer's market. The neon sign was dark, the windows boarded. The company had shuttered overnight, its reputation destroyed. On the courthouse steps, Dante stood beside Claire, his sister clutching his hand. Cameras flashed, but his voice remained calm, steady. I didn't want fame. I didn't want trouble. I wanted food for my family. What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone. Poor, rich, black, white. Respect is free. Kindness costs nothing. But prejudice? Prejudice costs everything. The crowd erupted in applause. Claire wiped a tear. But as the cheering faded, a black car idled across the street. Tinted windows. Watching. Waiting. Rachel noticed it first. "Do you see that?" she whispered. Dante nodded slowly. His face, lit by the courthouse lights, was calm, but his eyes darkened with unease. "This isn't just about me," he murmured. "If it happened here, it's happening everywhere." The car pulled away, swallowed by the night. And just like that, Dante's story wasn't over. It was only beginning. Injustice thrives when arrogance meets silence. But even the smallest voice, trembling, hungry, desperate, can spark a fire too loud to ignore. Dante's apple became a symbol, a reminder that prejudice hides in plain sight, that respect is not a privilege, but a right, and that justice, though slow, can catch up when truth finally speaks. The camera lingered on Dante's face as he turned away from the cheering crowd. His sister tugged his sleeve. "Are we safe now?" she whispered. Dante glanced back at the empty street where the black car had been. His answer came softly, heavy with both hope and fear. For now. The phone buzzed again. Another text. Another warning. "Stay silent or you'll regret it." Dante sat on the edge of his creaky mattress, phone trembling in his hands. The glow of the cracked screen lit up his tired face. The tiny room smelled faintly of detergent and damp walls, the single bulb above flickering, as if it too was on edge. Ever since the video of Greer dragging him out of the grocery store had gone viral, Dante's world had been spinning. Overnight, he'd gone from being the poor kid from the East Side to a national headline. Some called him a hero, others a liar. And now, the threats had started. "Dante, you need to eat something," his mother said softly, pushing a plate of scrambled eggs across the table the next morning. Her eyes, warm but heavy with worry, searched his. She was still in her nurse's scrubs, hands raw from double shifts at the clinic. "I'm not hungry," Dante muttered. The eggs went cold, untouched. The TV in the background blared a news panel. "A viral injustice," one anchor declared. But is this really about prejudice? Or is the internet rushing to judgment again? Dante's jaw tightened. His story was no longer his. It belonged to strangers dissecting his pain. And yet, it was impossible to ignore the messages pouring in. Some were kind. "You're brave. Keep standing tall." Others were cruel. "Liar. You're just looking for attention." And then there were the darker ones. The ones that made his stomach knot. That morning, the scariest message of all arrived. A manila envelope slipped under their front door. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. 3 words, scrawled in red marker. "Keep quiet, boy." His mother's hands shook as she held it. "Dante, this isn't just trolls online anymore." In hand, her sharp eyes scanning the street before stepping inside. "They're trying to scare you," she said, setting the envelope down like it was evidence in a crime scene. "This isn't random. I've been digging, Dante. Greer's Market isn't just some local grocery chain. They've got investors, big ones. People with money, influence, and friends in places that matter." "Friends like who?" Dante asked. Claire hesitated, her voice low. "Judges, politicians, businessmen who don't like the kind of attention you're bringing." Dante's mother crossed her arms, protective. "So what? You're saying they'll just come after my son until he shuts up?" Claire didn't answer directly. She didn't need to. 2 nights later, Dante walked home from a community meeting where local activists had gathered to support him. The streets were dark, empty except for the buzz of a faulty street lamp overhead. That's when he heard it. A car engine. Slow. Crawling behind him. He turned. A black sedan idled at the curb, windows tinted, headlights off. His pulse quickened. He quickened his pace. Then, glass shattered. A brick came flying through the front window of his house. Dante's little sister screamed inside. Tires screeched. The car sped off into the night. He sprinted to the porch, heart hammering, only to find their front door spray-painted in dripping red letters. "Stay silent." His mother held his sister close, tears streaking her face. "This is too much. Dante, we can't." But Dante cut her off, voice trembling yet firm. "No, Mom. That's what they want. For us to be scared. For me to back down. But I won't." The next morning, reporters crowded their street. Microphones. Cameras. Questions fired like bullets. "Dante, do you think this is about race? Do you regret speaking out? Are you afraid for your life?" Dante barely answered, pushing through the crowd. Inside, he collapsed on the couch, his chest heaving. Claire arrived minutes later. "You need protection," she said. "I'll talk to some people. Maybe the FBI." "FBI?" Dante repeated. Claire nodded grimly. "This isn't just a grocery store story anymore. It's bigger, much bigger." That night, Dante couldn't sleep. Every sound made him flinch. The creak of the old pipes, the wind rattling the window. Finally, he reached for his phone and scrolled through the messages again. One stood out. A new number. No threats this time. Just a cryptic line. "This goes higher than Greer. Watch who you trust." Dante's stomach dropped. Who was sending these? A friend? An enemy? Someone on the inside? And then his phone buzzed again. This time, a video link. He clicked. The footage showed a conference room. Men in suits. One of them, Mr. Greer, laughing, shaking hands with another man Dante didn't recognize. The camera zoomed in, catching a chilling phrase. "We'll make an example out of the boy. No one challenges us and wins." The next morning, Dante took the video straight to Claire. She stared at the screen, color draining from her face. "This," she whispered, "this is proof of a network. Dante, you don't understand. Greer's just a pawn. There are people above him, dangerous people. If this gets out, it could blow the lid off everything." Dante swallowed hard, the weight of it pressing on him. His life was no longer just his own. He was holding evidence that could expose powerful men. A sudden knock at the door made them both jump. 3 hard, deliberate knocks. Claire froze. Dante's mother peeked through the blinds. A black car sat outside, engine running. "Don't answer it," Claire whispered. But the knocks came again. Louder. Heavier. The house fell silent. Then, a voice through the door. "Open up. We know you're in there." The screen cut to black. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. Court is now in session. The bailiff boomed, his voice echoing off the polished oak walls. Dante sat stiffly at the defendant's table, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whitened. He wore a borrowed suit, 2 sizes too big, the sleeves swallowing his wrists. Across the room, the eyes of strangers bore into him, reporters scribbling in notebooks, cameras snapping, townsfolk whispering. This wasn't just a trial. It was a spectacle, and Dante knew he wasn't really the one on trial. Justice was. At the bench sat Judge Holt, a man with silver hair slicked back like wet paint, his black robe immaculate. His expression was carved in stone, cold, proud, untouchable. He looked at Dante as though the boy were dirt tracked across his marble floor. Beside him, the prosecutor shuffled papers, slick, confident, clearly rehearsed. He smirked as if the verdict were already sealed. Clairol sat in the gallery, pen poised, watching every twitch of the judge's brow. Dante's mother clutched his sister's hand so tightly her knuckles went pale. The weight of the room pressed on Dante's chest. "Mr. Harris," the prosecutor began, striding before the jury. His voice was smooth, oily, practiced. "This is not a case about prejudice. This is about a troubled young man causing disruption, resisting lawful authority, and seeking internet fame through exaggeration." He let the words hang, savoring them. "The defense will tell you a story," he continued. "A story meant to tug at your heart. But the truth is simple. Dante Harris was asked to leave a private business, refused, and escalated the situation." The jury nodded along, some even scribbling notes. Claire's jaw tightened. Dante's stomach knotted. When his lawyer finally called him to the stand, the room fell silent. Dante rose, walked slowly to the witness chair, and sat. His heart thundered in his ears. "Mr. Harris," his lawyer asked gently, "tell us what happened that day." Dante swallowed hard. "I just wanted food. I had $5. I went to buy bread and milk. But Mr. Greer, he looked at me like I wasn't even human. He told me people like me didn't belong there. Then he dragged me out, in front of everyone." The courtroom murmured. "And how did that make you feel?" Dante hesitated, then spoke with quiet strength. "Like I was invisible. Like my life didn't matter." The prosecutor leapt to his feet. "Objection. Speculation. Irrelevant to the facts." "Objection sustained." Judge Holt barked, glaring at Dante. "Answer only what is asked, boy." "Boy." The word stung. The judge didn't see him as a young man, just a nuisance to be swatted away. Claire scribbled furiously in her notebook, her eyes narrowing. As the hours dragged on, the prosecution tore into Dante. "Isn't it true you've had school suspensions?" "Yes, but..." "Isn't it true you've been seen loitering outside that store before?" "I was waiting for my mom." "Isn't it true you resisted when Mr. Greer asked you to leave?" "He shoved me." "Answer yes or no." The prosecutor snapped. The jury shifted uncomfortably. The judge leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Mr. Harris, if you cannot control yourself, I will hold you in contempt." Dante's throat burned. He wanted to shout the truth, to scream that he'd done nothing wrong. But he stayed calm, quiet, principled. The more they tried to break him, the more determined he became not to bend. Then, just as the prosecutor prepared his final attack, the courtroom doors burst open. Two men in dark suits strode in. Their badges flashed under the fluorescent lights. "FBI," one announced. His voice was low, commanding, impossible to ignore. The room froze. Judge Holt blinked, startled. What is the meaning of this interruption? The taller agent stepped forward, a folder in his hand. "Your Honor, we have reason to believe this court has been compromised. Evidence of bribery, collusion, and obstruction tied to this very case." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Cameras clicked wildly. The prosecutor's face drained of color. Judge Holt's gavel slammed. "Order. Order in this court." But the FBI agent wasn't finished. He opened the folder, pulling out a stack of documents and photographs, including financial ties between Mr. Greer, this court, and several local officials. Payments made to ensure young Mr. Harris was discredited. The room erupted. Dante's chest heaved. For the first time since this nightmare began, the weight lifted slightly. Judge Holt's face twisted with fury. "You will remove yourselves immediately. This is my courtroom." The agent locked eyes with him. "Not anymore." He handed the bailiff a warrant. The judge's hands shook as he read it. Claire's pen scratched furiously across the page, capturing history as it unfolded. And then, like a final, crushing blow, the FBI agent turned to Dante. "Young man, you've been targeted because you spoke up. But you're not alone anymore. This case is bigger than you. Much bigger." The gallery buzzed, voices rising into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. The prosecutor wiped sweat from his brow, his career unraveling in real time. Dante sat frozen, his heart pounding. He had dreamed of justice, but never like this. The FBI agent closed the folder and leaned in close enough for only Dante to hear. "This goes higher than Greer, higher than Holt. There's someone pulling strings. Someone we call the architect." Dante's eyes widened. "Who is he?" The agent's jaw tightened. "We don't know. Yet." The gavel slammed one last time. Court adjourned. Judge Holt barked, but his voice cracked, trembling under the weight of exposure. As the courtroom descended into chaos, Dante glanced at Claire. Her eyes burned with fire. She mouthed a single word. "Run." Because this fight was far from over. The screen cut to black. The night air was thick, humid, and uneasy. Dante walked fast, his sneakers slapping against cracked pavement as the glow of street lamps flickered above. He'd left the courthouse hours ago, yet the adrenaline still pulsed through his veins. The FBI storming in, the judge trembling, the whispers of the architect, it all felt like a movie he couldn't turn off. But this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Claire caught up, her heels clicking sharply. She was still scribbling notes even as she walked, her reporter's instincts refusing to rest. "Slow down," she hissed. "You look like you're running from something." "I am," Dante muttered. "Don't you feel it? We're being watched." Claire glanced over her shoulder. Behind them, a black sedan crept slowly along the curb, headlights low, engine purring. Her stomach dropped. "You're not paranoid," she whispered. The car sped up as if on cue. Dante grabbed her hand. "Come on." They bolted into an alley, their footsteps echoing against graffiti-splattered walls. Trash cans toppled behind them, the sedan's headlights cutting across the corner like searching eyes. For the first time, Dante felt it deep in his bones. Justice didn't scare these people. Exposure didn't scare them. But he did. They slammed the door shut behind them, panting. Claire's small apartment smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink. Papers strewn everywhere. Drafts, headlines, case notes. Dante paced the floor. "They're onto us. That car. I saw it too," Claire cut in. She pulled the blinds shut with a snap, her hands shaking. "They want you quiet. They want me quiet." "Which means they're scared," Dante finished. Claire nodded, though her voice cracked when she spoke again. "Scared enough to do something desperate." Silence settled over the room. The hum of the refrigerator seemed deafening. Then Claire's phone buzzed. She picked it up and froze. The message was simple. Anonymous. No caller ID. "Stop digging, or he disappears." Her eyes widened. "They know about you." The next day, Dante tried to walk to the corner store. But two men leaned against the wall outside, sunglasses low, their posture casual, but their eyes locked on him. "Morning, kid," one said, his tone sharp with mockery. "Heard you like attention." The other smirked. "Careful where you walk. Streets can be unpredictable." Dante's throat tightened. He turned away, only to hear their laughter echoing behind him. Later, Claire's tires were slashed. She found a note tucked under her windshield wiper. Journalists bleed too. Every move they made, every breath, they weren't just being watched. They were being hunted. That night, Claire poured herself a stiff drink, her hand trembling so badly half of it spilled. "This is insane," she whispered, her eyes glassy. "I wanted a story, Dante, not a war." Dante leaned forward across her cluttered table, his young face lit by the soft glow of a desk lamp. "You can walk away if you want. I won't blame you." Claire slammed her glass down. "And let them win? Let them crush another kid just because of where he comes from, what he looks like." Her voice cracked. "No, I'm in this. Till the end." For the first time, Dante saw the cracks in her armor. The fear, the cost. She wasn't untouchable. She was just as vulnerable as him. And yet she stayed. 2 days later, Claire received a call. The source's voice was low, urgent. "Meet me at the old train station at midnight. I've got files. Proof of who's behind this. But come alone." Claire hesitated. It could be the break they needed, or it could be a setup. She looked at Dante. "We go together." The train station was abandoned, its windows shattered, weeds pushing through cracked tiles. The moon cast eerie shadows across rusted tracks. Claire clutched her recorder. Dante's fists were balled tight. "Hello," she called into the silence. "You said you had something for us?" No answer. A metallic clang echoed from the far end of the platform. Dante stepped forward, scanning the darkness. "We shouldn't be here." Then the headlights flared. A black SUV roared to life, its engine snarling. Figures in dark clothing poured out, their faces hidden, their footsteps pounding against concrete. "Run!" Claire screamed. They sprinted through the station, weaving between rusted benches and broken glass. Shouts echoed behind them. "Grab them!" Dante's chest burned. Claire tripped, nearly falling, but he yanked her back up. The air smelled of oil and dust, heavy with danger. They tore through a side door into the night, the cool air slamming into them. Tires screeched as another car cut them off. Claire's heart hammered. "We're trapped." Dante spotted a narrow stairwell leading down to the subway tunnels. He grabbed her hand and pulled. This way, they barreled down the stairs, the sound of pursuit right on their heels. The tunnels were damp, dark, littered with graffiti and dripping pipes. Their footsteps echoed, faster, faster. Behind them, the shadows closed in. Up ahead, light flickered from a service exit. Dante pushed Claire forward. Go! Bullets ricocheted off the concrete wall behind them, sparks flying. Claire screamed, clutching her bag to her chest. They stumbled through the exit and burst into the night. Onto a crowded street, horns blaring, pedestrians yelling as they collided with the chaos of city life. The dark figures didn't follow. Not in the open. Not with witnesses everywhere. Dante bent over, gasping for air. Claire's face was pale, streaked with sweat. They're not just watching us, Dante panted. They're hunting us. Claire nodded, trembling. And if we don't strike back first, they'll win. Back at Claire's apartment, they found another note slipped under the door. No envelope. No name. Just 6 words scrawled in ink. You can't fight what you can't see. Claire's hands shook as she held it. Dante's stomach churned. For the first time, the faceless presence of the architect felt terrifyingly real. He wasn't a man in a robe like Judge Holt. He wasn't a grocer like Greer. He was something bigger, a shadow pulling strings. And he wanted them gone. That night, Dante stood at the window, staring out at the city lights. He could see his reflection in the glass. Tired, bruised, but burning with resolve. Claire joined him, clutching her recorder like a weapon. They'll come again, she whispered. I know. What do we do? Dante's eyes hardened. We stop running. We take the fight to them. Claire's gaze lingered on him, fear and admiration colliding. And outside, in the alley below, the same black sedan idled, its headlights glowing faintly in the dark. Watching, waiting, because the hunt wasn't over. It was only getting started. Rain pounded the cracked asphalt. Dante's breath came in ragged bursts, steam rising from his lips in the cold night. His jacket clung to his blood-soaked side, and each step sent pain ripping through his ribs. Behind him, the low growl of an engine echoed off the brick walls of the alley. A black SUV rolled slowly, its tinted windows like soulless eyes watching him stumble. He whispered under his breath, "Keep moving. Don't let them bury you." The city was alive and hostile. Neon signs flickered over boarded-up shops. Sirens screamed in the distance, their cries bouncing between towering tenements. Trash swirled through the alleys, pushed by wind that carried the smell of gasoline, wet pavement, and fear. Dante ducked into a narrow passage, pressing himself against a graffiti-tagged wall. His scarred face glistened with rain and sweat. The stitches from last week's attack tugged painfully, but he ignored it. Beside him, Claire clutched a worn backpack, their only leverage. Inside, a hard drive containing footage of crooked cops handing envelopes to a man known only as the architect's messenger. "Dante, you can't keep bleeding like this," Claire whispered. "I'll stop bleeding when they stop running this city," Dante growled. They weren't safe anywhere. Every payphone felt bugged. Every stranger's glance lingered too long. That morning, Dante had spotted a man pretending to read a newspaper outside Claire's apartment. By afternoon, 2 SUVs had followed them across 3 boroughs. And now, as night drowned the city, the chase had turned lethal. "Look," Claire said, pointing across the street. A flickering bodega sign glowed, 24/7 groceries. "Too obvious," Dante muttered. "They'll box us in." Instead, he pulled her down a stairwell leading to the subway. The air grew damp and metallic. Rats scurried between tracks as trains screamed by, spraying sparks like fireworks. Claire's voice trembled. "Dante, even if we upload this, even if people see the truth, what if nothing changes?" He stopped, gripping her shoulders. His scarred face was inches from hers, his eyes burning. "Then we force it to change, even if it kills me." They reached a safe house, an abandoned laundromat with rusted machines, and a hidden basement. Inside, Dante powered up an old laptop. The files played. Grainy footage filled the screen. Police officers, judges, businessmen, all funneling cash into envelopes. But one frame froze them both in shock. Claire covered her mouth. "That's the mayor." Dante's jaw tightened. "It goes higher than we thought." They scrolled further. Bank records, coded emails, maps of city districts carved like territories. "This isn't one man," Claire whispered. "No," Dante said, fists clenching. "This is a network. The architect isn't a name, it's a design. The floor above creaked. Dante's head shot up. Shadows moved through the laundromat. Heavy boots. Silencers clicking. They found us, he hissed. Claire grabbed the backpack. Dante ripped a pipe from the wall, the metal cold in his hand. The door burst open. Masked men stormed in. Gunfire ripped through the machines, sparks flying. Dante shoved Rachel into the basement's crawl space. Run when I tell you, he barked. What about you? Don't argue. Just run. He lunged into the fray. The pipe cracked skulls. Bullets shattered tiles. Pain exploded in his shoulder, but he fought like a man who'd already died once. Claire crawled through the vent, clutching the drive. She glanced back. Dante staggered, blood dripping, yet still swinging. Then the vent slammed shut. Hours later, Dante awoke in a different alley. His body burned with new wounds, his scars now doubled. But he wasn't dead. A stranger had dragged him there, a homeless veteran named Cole, who'd seen the ambush and intervened with nothing but fists and fury. They'll kill her if you don't move, Cole rasped. Dante staggered upright, every bone screaming. Then I don't stop moving. Together, they hunted through the city's underbelly, gambling dens, strip clubs, smoke-filled basements. Every step peeled back another layer of corruption. At dawn, they found Claire, bruised but alive. She'd hidden in a church basement, uploading pieces of the evidence onto burner accounts. And by noon, the footage was viral. News stations lit up. Hashtags trended. Protesters filled the streets, holding signs that read, "Justice for the streets." For the first time, people looked past Dante's scars and saw his fight. But victory carried a price. Cole was gunned down 2 nights later. Claire went into hiding. And Dante limped through the streets he'd once fought to survive, knowing his face was a target forever. He had won, but at the cost of his peace. Weeks later, in a skyscraper high above the chaos, a faceless man in a suit poured a glass of wine. On the TV, crowds cheered Dante's name. The man smirked. Let them cheer. He lifted his glass toward the skyline. Every fire needs fuel. The screen cut to black. Dante survived. Scarred. Haunted. But unbroken. His story lit a fuse that spread across neighborhoods, across cities, across the nation. A movement was born, not because one man fought corruption, but because thousands rose after him. Still, in the shadows, corruption whispered, waiting, because justice may win battles. But the war? The war never ends. If this story moved you, know this. There are more stories, more truths, more voices waiting to be heard. Don't let this be the last one. Watch more of our videos right here on this channel. Each one reveals something deeper, something hidden. And if you want to be the first to hear the next chapter, the next fight, the next truth, subscribe now and join us. Because stories like this don't just entertain, they wake us up.